Fabulous. I won't lie. I was struggling for what to do on this, but I've got a couple of books which we've not really that cover topics that we've not really explored that I wouldn't normally say ho- go into your everyday normal I meditate stuff. And obviously the idea of the Wednesdays is exploring all the different things that have gone into the techniques, the methods, the this, that, and the others. However, especially the first one of the two that I read, I found it brilliant, if not a little, not challenging at times and uncomfortable. But that's good. The things that challenge us are good. So tonight's isn't based on those workshops, on those books, um, but it's kind of been inspired a little bit by them. So tonight we're looking at creative disruption, mental anarchy, uh, not confrontation, not cleverness, but the kind of language and behavior that we can use that will gently shake someone out of a stuck state of mind. And beforehand, Sally was saying about, your mom saying, oh, I could never do that. That's a stuck state of mind. That's why I said it ties in quite nicely. I can't do that. I could never do that is very much a stuck state of mind. Um, so this kind of way of approaching people gently gives that state a shake, gives their heads a wobble indirectly, and to allow something new to emerge. And we all know people who repeat either the same story in their life, the same belief, same emotional reaction, almost like they're under a spell or hypnotized. Interesting. Um, and in a way, of course, they are, because one state of mind is one trance and another state of mind is another trance. So uh, these behaviors, these repetitions, though, in hypnosis and NLP, we call patterns. So they're patterns. And once you notice a pattern, once you've seen a pattern, it can be interrupted. And you can do this in quite provocative and fun ways. Um, so that's kind of where we're looking a little bit tonight. So I'm going to say these are playful, respectful ways to pattern interrupt, to use confusing language, and to use slightly provocative reframes, tools that they're not there to argue, they're not kind of to put people down, but they open up a space for possibility. And another way of looking at it is like they shake the snow globe and allow the change to arise from within. You don't need to perform, just practice, play and notice what happens. So let's start looking, first of all, we'll call them tools today. Tool number one, if I start speeding up, it's because I'm drinking proper coffee and I'm halfway through quite a big mug of it, just to pre-warn you. Um, so tool number one is the pattern interrupt. Now, this is something that we've explored a little bit in the past. Um, at the Obviously when I did the day here, we looked at it more. But you guys weren't there for that. With things like the handshake induction, I know I've shared videos of handshake inductions. Classic pattern interrupt. A pattern interrupt is anything that breaks a person's habitual state of mind, their habitual state, movement, thought, or language, which opens up a moment of uncertainty. And in that moment of uncertainty, the unconscious mind becomes more receptive to change. So I'm going to say that again. A pattern interrupt is anything that breaks a person's habitual state, movement, thought, or language, and it opens up a moment of uncertainty. And in that moment, the unconscious becomes more receptive to change. It's classic NLP material. It's classic Erickson. Um, any sort of shock induction, any sort of startle trance induction, like Elman used a name I don't drop in that often, but his is the handshake. Is a pattern interrupt. And we tend to use pattern interrupts when people are stuck in a loop. Yeah, they'll keep repeating the same behavior, they keep saying the same thing, and that thing is holding them back, whatever it is. So I always mess things up. I can't think clearly. This always happens to me. And we all know, we probably are aware when we've said things like that, but we also probably know people will go, "Oh, I could never get this right." Yeah, with that is a pattern. And if you watch people there, you'll see these patterns appearing. And a clean interrupt doesn't need to be loud or shocking. So if someone goes, "Oh, I always mess thing up," ah! isn't necessary. It will interrupt the pattern, um, but it's there's better ways of doing it. So it can be literally as subtle as a sudden shift in tone or tempo. So somebody says something like, "Oh, this always happens to me," and you've been talking quite sedately, and all of a sudden you drop in a sentence that's said really quickly. The unconscious mind goes, "Hang on a minute, that's a shift. What's happened?" A pattern interrupt can be a surprising question. It can be a playful movement or a gesture, not as extreme as that. Although sometimes, if it's going to do the trick, why not? Or it can be a pause that draws attention to itself. So someone goes, "Oh, I can't think clearly," and you just go, and in that moment, the brain goes, "What the hell's going on?" A pattern interrupts the pattern, it interrupts the sequence, the routine. And so the unconscious mind in that moment opens up because it's looking for its instruction. It's so used to this pattern that it repeats it, repeats it, repeats it. And suddenly it's been interrupted. And for a moment, it goes, "What next? What's happening? Tell me, because I don't know." And in that moment, you've got time to drop in a direct suggestion to lead a conversation into a more positive place, or to, like I say, use suggestion or direct the thought the way you want it to. We can use it in inductions as well. Sometimes you'll have someone talking to you and you'll see that they're repeating. It might be the same theme, but they're just talking about it in different ways. So you can interrupt that and drop into to kind of trance with them by kind of going, you know, they go, "Oh, I can't think clearly," and, "Oh, it's like this brain fog all the time," and you kind of go, "Uh-huh," and just pause and do something kind of random, like holding a funny Elvis face or something. I don't know if that's an Elvis face or not. And you'll see a moment where all of a sudden they'll zone out a bit because that's the brain going, "What's going on?" And then you go, and as you're wondering what's going on, you can begin to relax and just let go as we close our eyes and just go deeper within now. So you can lead into hypnosis, or you can kind of do the interrupt Elvis face, um, followed up once you realize they've zoned out into that place, the legendary "That's right." Just "That's right." Wonder how many other ways you can begin to approach this now. And that might be all you need to do for that person to then start exploring other ways that they can think and feel about something. Um, so yeah, sudden shift in tempo or tone, surprising question, playful movement or a gesture, pause that draws attention to itself. So what I want you to do is, I don't mind which hand you use, whichever hand feels like the right hand for you to use. I just want you to hold your hand up. And whilst you're doing that, when you think of uh, something you feel a bit stuck with or a bit of a problem, and now just look at the lines on the hand, the shape, the detail, and just begin to imagine that that hand is the map of a problem. Every line every crease a familiar thought. Now, begin to turn your hand slowly in unfamiliar directions, allowing, as you move it, your hand to become unrecognizable. Allow your mind to lose track of the logic. And that moment when your brain goes, wait, what are we doing? That's the interrupt. That is the opening. So you put your hands back down. We're going to do some breakouts. So one person is going to, and we'll swap over. One person will be the person that has the pattern, the stuck phrase. Either I can't do something, I always do blah, they never listen to me. Um, a stuck phrase. It doesn't have to be your own personal stuck phrase. This is kind of role playing. So you can pick something, or if you kind of think, actually, I know what Rob's talking about. I've got a bit of a thing that I do get stuck on, and I know I repeat this phrase quite often. Um, maybe something I thought I never make time for myself. That's, quite a lot of people say that, and they keep saying it, and it's a pattern they keep saying, and because they keep saying the pattern, they stay within that mindset that they never can. If the other person number two, is going to deliver a clean and clear pattern interrupt. It could be an unrelated question or something random question-wise. So someone might go, I never make time for myself. You go, oh, have you ever fed ducks at Ellesmere? Kind of question that's completely unrelated to the actual issue. You know, they never invite me round. They never invite me to join the team. Ever seen a car battery explode? Completely unrelated. Or it can be an absurd question. So someone goes, I can't do that thing no matter how much I try. I just can't do it. And that person's going to keep repeating it. Person one will keep repeating it. Person two could say something like, have you ever eaten soup with a fork? Have you ever pushed an elephant up a staircase? Some sort of weird random question. And what I want you to do is when that pattern is interrupted, is if you're the person repeating the pattern, saying it over and over again, notice what your mind does in that moment when you hear that randomness. A little bit more challenging, but not impossible on here is some sort of surprising gesture. So if you were doing it in person, they might say something, repeat that pattern a few times, and you'd stand up, turn around, or you might speak backwards, or you might put your hands on your head and start doing this. Um, just some sort of gesture that kind of makes them stop what the pattern is and go, what the hell are they doing? Or you might go for a non sequitur, which is they'll go like, I always fail whenever I do this thing. You go, oh, that reminds me of goats. Have you ever noticed? Goats never say anything like that. So it kind of puts some randomness, but ties it back into what they're saying. Again, it's about the moment after. So if you're the person repeating the phrase, the stuck phrase, notice what your mind does when it's interrupted. If you're the person that's speaking the randomness afterwards, interrupting the pattern, either with that absurd or unrelated question, a weird gesture, or some random thing that kind of goes, nothing to do with back on topic. Watch the other person's response. And we're looking for that moment where there's a bit of a, what? That, what was that? What? Yeah. So that's the moment we're looking for. Um, and we'll chat about it once we get back. So let me sort the breakout rooms, assign automatically. We need two. Is that clear enough? Yeah. Yeah. Basically, one person's repeating something that's a stuck phrase, a pattern, and the other person interrupt it in a creative and fun way. You can have fun with this. Don't know who I'm going to be with, so I will see you on the other side. Recording, we'll plan because I've noticed the time. I do that thing when I've got something fun planned that I kind of go into. So basically, and I think you all did, you notice that shift when somebody interrupts what you're saying with some randomness, that moment of what? And like you said, Sally, sometimes you pull a funny face. I just laughed because I mean, Sally nailed it both times. It was hilarious. Um, so the thing to think about then is once you've created that pattern interrupt, all of a sudden somebody's way of thinking about something has just stopped. So think about what's possible after you interrupt moving forward. Um, because there you can, I was like, so you could literally interrupt a pattern at the bar and be chancy and just go, and that one's on the house. And if you've interrupted it and they're in, if you're serving at a bar all the time, you're in your pattern, you're in your routine. And if somebody interrupts that as they put the pint down, and normally they'd ask you for the money, you turn around and say, I met an aardvark skateboarding the other day. And they'd be like, you go, that one on the house. Yeah. Um, I'm not saying it's
Okay.
honest, but give it if you're feeling brave, give it a go. All they're going to go is go no, or they might go yes. In which case, thank you very much. Um, so yeah, just think about different ways you could lead from that once you've got because their mind at that moment is going what, and it's asking the question what. So if you can give it a response and an answer quicker, then that can then and it can be something as simple as um let me think. It was simple until I tried to think of it. Um, so you interrupt the pattern, and somebody's. Oh, in fact, we'll use what I used the example of a piece that I'm trying to learn on the guitar. Um, and Sally interrupted it beautifully. And to follow that up, you could follow it up with something. So when you can play this, how good that is that going to feel? Yeah. Or when you can do that thing, or when you realize you can do that thing, how good it be, or how will it feel when you're doing it? So just one simple question on top of that paused moment of what? So when you can do it, so now the brain jumps from what it can't do to exploring what it can do. Yeah, so that's just one way you can set that up. Language, maybe we won't do this one as a yeah, I don't think we'll do this one as a breakout just to save us a bit of time, but because we've done quite a bit of language already. Um, confusion language is a beautiful thing. Confusion language is structured ambiguity. So we use ambiguity anyway. We've talked about ambiguity, and it's very much from Erickson's indirect hypnosis, where overloading the conscious mind allows us to direct access to the unconscious. Yeah, you can. Another way of inducing trance is to overload. So you can go to somebody, okay, what I want you to do is just put your hand like this, put your hand on there. Now touch your elbow, touch the back of your head, touch your hip, just touch your nose, and you give them like a load. The mind can only deal with so many instructions at once. So if you load the mind up with lots and lots of instructions and suddenly go sleep, the mind just go, "Oh, that's a better option. I'm not juggling all this stuff. Um, So the conscious mind always wants to make sense of things, but when it can't, it steps aside. And that's where we can change can be snuck in, where it sneaks in. Some of the stuff we can use, in fact, most of it actually, I think, we've explored in the past. Loops. Nested loops is a great way of setting up confusion because the mind's following a story. That story doesn't quite finish. So another story, now it's following two stories, but it still wants to know what the first story ended. And then it's following a third story, but it doesn't know how the other two end. And suddenly the mind's going, and then you drop in the suggestion and then you close your stories, which closes the loop. Tangents are literally just going off at a tangent a little bit like we've just done with the, well, completely what we've just done, in fact, with the last exercise. Implied or embedded suggestions. So someone might say something like, um, I'm really struggling to stop eating chocolate just before bed. So you could rephrase it and just go, so just before bed, when you stop eating chocolate, how's that going to feel? So you've got a bit of presupposition. You're using the frame of reference. They're saying, well, just before bed, when you stop. And you're not saying when you've stopped. The direct suggestion, the embedded suggestion is when you stop. Slight pause, eating chocolate. Shifting reference, never quite saying who or what is doing what. I'm going to give an example of a bit of this speaking. And vague sequencing, before you know it. Before you know what? You know what? You're sitting there listening to this now, and, you know, before you know it, you're just going to find that you're using it. There's a direct embedded suggestion with some vague sequencing. So basically, you don't have to understand this yet. To begin noticing the way your mind might not respond until after the shift has already started to begin in the place you're not yet aware of. Confusion isn't disconnection, it's openness. It's the moment just before we reorientate. So we're not going to do a practical on that one, but I will, when I post the thingy up, I'll put the examples up there with it in the PDF. Just time wise. And this one I was talking to Sally about. There's a couple of books by a chap called Jürgen Rasmussen. They're not cheap. They're about 50 quid a pop. Um, and he pioneered something that he basically labeled provocative hypnosis. What we're doing here is we're using interruptions, pattern interruptions, to help change and shift behavior. He took that to a whole new level. He used to do, he never used to charge unless he got a result. And some of the stuff when you read his books is really quite challenging. You'd kind of go, I wouldn't do that. But it worked. And it works on this very same thing of he'd find out what somebody's state of mind is. So the example I gave to Sally, and Sally, I'm sorry for repeating this now, uh, was a lady who she was being treated or felt like she was being treated like crap by her boss, by her partner. Basically, everybody just walked over and treated her like mud all the time. And so she'd spoken, and obviously this does nothing for your confidence. She's feeling really terrible about herself. So she started treating herself the way everybody else seemed to be treating her. And so she spoke to him, explained the situation. The state of mind is basically in that situation, I'm crap. I'm crap and everyone treats me that way. I'm crap and I don't even treat myself well anymore. Um, so he took that and set her up. Literally, talk about pattern interrupt, set her up, told her to turn up for an appointment 15 minutes after it was due to start. So she comes in already stressed because of parking, because he deliberately told her to go to a place where there was not great parking to be able to find a parking place. So she turned up stressed, already in this I'm useless, I'm no good frame of mind, walks in, and this is pretty harsh. And he's like, what the hell are you doing? You're 15 minutes late. Why, how am I meant to, you're meant to be committed to this. No wonder they think you're useless at work. And he proper started laying into her. And after about 10 minutes of this, she turned round and was like, what on earth are you doing? I am paying you. This is the worst. You are the worst there. And she laid into him. She had a go at him and she put him in his place. And do you know what you are? And he said, yeah, probably the best therapist you're ever going to meet. And she was like, what? She's still livid with him at this moment. He said, well, when we spoke on the phone, you said that everyone walks over you and you never stand up for yourself. And you've just put me in my place. Well done. That's a big pattern interrupt. And I'm not suggesting any of us go to that kind of level of doing stuff, but it illustrates how the power of taking that pattern, interrupting it with something, and eliciting it and then interrupting it. So a provocative reframe, though, on a more mellow level, it's not sarcasm and it's not cruelty. It's mirroring the stuck voice so fully that the client hears it clearly and chooses freedom from it instead. So, examples of this, a client may say, I'll never change. You might say, that's excellent. That kind of certainty is really rare. You must work hard to hold on to that. It's one of the mind won't do anything that it thinks is hard work. If you can make somebody's problem that they're struggling with harder work than having a solution, they'll find a solution really quick. So, I'll never change. Wow, great. That's a rare quality. You must really work hard to hold on to that. You're making holding on to that ability to not change really difficult. Um, Someone might say, it's just how I am. It's quite a common one. Oh, I'll never change. It's just how I am. Perfect. So no need to do anything differently ever again. That'll simplify life. Another one, slightly, these can be a little cheeky. I sabotage everything I do. Really, that's quite a skill. Do you offer coaching? These are loving provocations. They hold up a bit of a fun mirror. They basically reflect back the silliness of the state that somebody is in and lets them choose whether they want to keep that reality or change it. Because we change all the time. Might not always be conscious of it, but we have changed. Otherwise, we'd still be like we were when we were first born. So I'll never change is complete nonsense as a belief. So if you can challenge that belief in a fun way, excellent, that's rare. Work hard on to hold on to that. Makes them go, hang on a minute, work on, but I do change. And they start exploring it. So we can do another breakout room just to finish up today. Um, the person being the client is going to present a limiting belief. Doesn't have to be one of your own. You can just make it up for the sense of this. Um, the person who's listening to this, the guide, will respond with a provocative reframe. This can be playful, ridiculous, or kind of exaggerate the agreement. So if someone says, let me think of one. I'll be no good at that. You're right. In fact, it'd be so bad the world's going to end, right? Oh, I'm not that bad at it. But a minute ago you said you're really bad at it. Yeah. Exaggerate the consequence of the thing they believe, you know. Um, but do it in a loving way. You're not doing this to mock. You're not taking the mickey. You're doing it in a playful way that opens up the exploration of the fact that that belief is probably quite silly and holding them back. Um, so let me just go through that again. Breakout room. One person presents a limiting brief, other one a provocative reframe. Something silly, something playful, something exaggerates the agreement. Oh, I agree with you, but in a really big and ridiculous way. Use a tone that's safe, curious, and relational. So you're questioning it in a kind of playful way. Let's jump into breakout. Let's do them again. Where's the, oh, hang on a minute. Options. They've changed it all. Ah, there you go. That threw me. 2 rooms. Next. Fabulous. So we'll do 5 minutes. Just a quick one for someone drop in the limiting belief, and the other person come up with a response that is playful, exaggerated, or just downright stupid, and see how you get on. Notice again if you're receiving that, how you feel as the person who's presented it, and if you're presenting it, just notice how the person reacts. There we go. See you inside. Oh, we don't want to be recording. There we go. We've got Anne. Hey, there you
Hey,
go. Uh, just gonna do this. Cool. So I'll just quickly, you get the benefit of me going back through that. Um, in a minute, I can't get me notes. Everything's froze up. I know the feeling. Um, where are we? I've gone
is it
past
in
it
the
now.
next file?
I tell you, it was all organized. Provocative reframes. There we go. So yeah.
I said, is it in the next file?
So a playful, absurd, or exaggerated agreement. I might let's see. So um, I'll never change. Yeah. So you might say, brilliant, one less thing to worry about. And people will be like, what? No, I might be able to. Um, or someone might say, I'll never change. So we can schedule this exact same conversation from 10 years from now. Wonderful. Um, and it just gets people, it makes them go,
Yeah.
well, hang on, I've got to think about this really. Maybe that's not quite true. Um, if someone identifies as a victim, people always take advantage of me. You might get something like, wow, you must be really good at making it easy for them.
Where's that
Uh,
nurse?
where's that nurse?
Where's that nurse?
That's it, yeah. Um, or people always take advantage of me. Oh, well done. Consistency is a real art. Um, have you considered charging for the service? Is another response you might give. Lack of clarity. I don't know what I want to do. Perfect. No decisions to make. That's perfect freedom. Um, lack of clarity of direction. You've mastered the art of drifting. Most people fight it. Great. Just keep doing nothing until something changes.
Is there a therapy for that?
That's it. Yeah. Fear-based avoidance. I'm too scared to try something. So you might say, of course, trying might work. And then what would you do with all that success? I love that one. Um, another one might be, oh, best to stay scared. At least it's familiar. Or it might be, makes sense. Risking growth is highly overrated. Self-sabotage, you might respond, someone said always mess things up. Wow, if there was a competition, you'd win hands down. Um,
On camera.
yeah, consistency is a beautiful thing. Keep it up. Maybe you could run a masterclass. So there's lots. They never listen to me. Maybe you're broadcasting on the wrong frequency. Maybe you're a secret agent. Um, yeah, so there's lots of different
Yeah.
ones. So if I'll come up with a limiting belief. Let me find the right screen for you. I'll come up with a limiting belief. And you've just got to throw some random kind of thing back at me like that. So I'm never gonna actually get this bit of guitar right.
What string's that?
Perfect, perfect. Um, but I mean, no matter how hard I try, I never get there.
What A's that?
Yeah, yeah. Or actually, one that isn't such a Mickey take one on that one. It would be something like, "Oh, I'm never going to get there." Oh, okay, so you're never going to get there. I guess it's more about the journey anyway, right?
Yeah.
Um, which is something we quite often will say to people, which is a similar thing. Or you might go, there, I once had a postcard from there. It's not all that great. Um, it's just something that kind of makes them think about what they've just said and reflect upon it. And but because it's slightly random, it interrupts the pattern. So I'll let you throw a limiting belief my direction, and I'll come back with a response for you.
Even though I like birds, I hate birds. They mess everywhere. I can't get rid of birds out of my garden.
But there's so many, I bet you can't even mow your lawn.
That is brilliant.
Do you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
some sort of randomness. I've
Yeah.
taken what you're saying. I can't get rid of birds. Don't like them, but I hate them. I can't get rid of them. And you've got that many, you
Yeah.
can't even get out, can't even open the door, type
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, so just a random, try another one. We'll throw another one out there and
Uh,
see what we come up with.
I got this pesky work colleague. He always thinks he knows best. Um, if I say something, he's going to whinge that it's all going to be my fault for
Oh
for
my God, and that war in between Russia and Ukraine, you started that as well. Well, you said it's all going to be your
yeah,
fault, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
just some random exaggeration of the
yeah,
consequence. Oh, my
yeah,
life. So Trump getting into power, that was your doing, right? Okay.
yeah, yeah. It's all my doing,
Yeah.
all my doing. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm loving
yeah.
it.
So you see how it works, yeah?
Yeah,
Cool. I'll jump back in with the others, just see how they're getting on. If you want to join into the main room, do, and then we'll all
yeah,
be back there in a short while.
yeah.
There we go, make sure I click the right thing, because I almost did like Sally did and then left the whole thing. Last time. There we go. See you tick. No, so hopefully with those, you've got a feel both for obviously the delivering of, but also kind of those moments where that pattern gets interrupted or that belief is challenged in a way where we start questioning it. Certainly with that last exercise, it's about putting something in there that it's not being rude, it's not being cheeky. It can be a little bit cheeky, but the intent is that it challenges a belief that's holding someone back. Um, and we often try to help people by change by giving them answers. Oh, well, if you did this or if you did that. But actually, sometimes the more respectful approach is to just confuse the problem. Confuse the problem. Someone's got to look at it differently to make sense of it. Interrupt the pattern or just reframe the trance. Disruption doesn't mean we're confronting, it means we're opening up a space for something new to become possible. Um, so have fun with these. They're subtle things you can drop in and use all the time. And in fact, try not to, um, as the week unfolds, and discover you cannot. And as you're discovering you cannot, you might as well find how many times you can use these as you're talking to people, or even notice how many times you can, and even be a little bit impish and playful with them and have a bit of fun. Just you know, you can literally drop an interrupt in and just go, feel good afterwards in that moment of confusion where someone goes, you go, feel good now. So you were saying, and they'll forget that you said feel good, but they'll be smiling and happy by the end of the conversation. It's yeah, it's little things, little ways of playing with it that as long as we're always coming from a good place with it. Igor Ledochowski, out of all the different hypnotherapists and hypnosis trainers I've trained with, he has this wonderful thing that we should if you know how to use a little bit of hypnosis or NLP or anything like that that can help people make changes for the better, then one, you've almost got an obligation to do so because we need people feeling better in the world. But he has this thing, it's all about your attitude. It's about coming from a place of just wanting what's best for that other person. Um, and then because you have some tools and things that you can use that make that difference, they may never know you've ever done it. Um, but you do, and that's what matters.